Welcome to Jordan Shorty Jacks. My name's Jim. Today's video is going to be about what's the difference between a Pudin Jack Russell Terrier, a short Jack Russell Terrier, and a Russell Terrier. I'm going to show you the difference between the three, and then I'm going to explain those differences to you. So just offhand, right off the bat, how this came about was I had a customer call me and they said, "Hey, do you sell short Jack Russells?" And I'm like, "Yes, we do." And they were like, "Yo, good," because I called one lady and asked them if they looking for a short Jack Russell, and they said, "Oh, we don't breed Pudins, we breed Russell Terriers." So they sent them on their way and they contacted us, and I was like, "Yeah, we have those here." And then I had a friend that said, a breeder friend, they were like, "Hey, you need to rebrand. When your name is Shorty Jacks, people think you're breeding Pudins." And I'm like, "Well, I am. They're short Jack Russells." And they're like, "But people think that you need to change it to like just Russells or Jack Russells," and I'm like, "Certainly not." So that's how this conversation came about, and there's been more than one instance that I've had this conversation with a lot of other people. So before we get too much further, I'm going to go ahead and show you the difference between the two. So you're going to have to keep your eye on the dog, because this is where the magic happens. Number one, first up is a Pudin Jack Russell Terrier. This is Shasta. She's about 4 years old, and you can see she's a little rounder and short in stature, and this is a fine example of a Pudin Jack Russell Terrier. Number two, here's a good example of a short Jack Russell Terrier. This is actually a daughter to the other one that I showed you. Number two example, right here. Now this is where you really need to be paying attention. This is a Russell Terrier. And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, "I can't believe it's not Pudin." Well, it is Pudin, and it is a Jack Russell Terrier, short Jack Russell Terrier, and it is a Russell Terrier. Stay with me and let me explain. Okay, so going forward to explain this, we'll take a little trip back in time, and I'll reference to a Reverend John Russell over in England way back in the day, 1800 and something, and he was supposedly the one that helped to develop, or was the founder of the Jack Russell Terrier, and they called him Russells, Reverend Russell. So they were Russells then, and that's where they were developed, and then supposedly they were sent over to Australia. In between there were tall ones, short ones, all different strains. My common sense tells me there were probably other breeder friends of him, hunters, that used each other's dogs in this development, and so they were sent over to Australia, and in Australia they recognized them as a breed, and there's a nickname through my research that they called them, the short ones, the Pudins, and they developed the short ones because so they could go in to the fox dens and flush them out, because the taller Parson ones, the tall ones, could not fit in there. So they ran on the ground, and the short ones, the Pudins, were carried on horseback, and they would send them in to flush them out, and then their hunt would continue on. That's history for you. So then they were found as set a standard for them and recognized as a breed in Australia, we're told. And need to be 51% white, 10 to 12 inches, slightly longer than they are tall, and so on and so on. It's the standard. And then we'll fast forward to now we're in America. And so sometime before 99, they were still all together, the tall ones, the short ones, and everybody's like, okay, the short ones are the Pudins, and this and that. And then they got some deal where they decided to split off, late 90s, I guess. So then they became recognized as English Jack Russell Terrier, or Shorty Jacks, or Short Jack Russell. And then the tall ones were the Parsons. And that was around 98, 99. And then we come to the AKC, and they recognized the breed around 2012. Okay, and in the AKC, they're called Russell Terriers. And this is how some of this happens. When you go overseas, if you're Googling, because a lot of people are like, oh, well, ours are Russell Terriers. We import them from overseas, from Europe, and all these things. But on every one of those registrations, when they import them, the papers on that dog says Jack Russell Terrier. Now, if you send it to all the other several different registries, they remain Jack Russell Terriers. When you send them to the AKC, they become Russell Terriers. And the way I understand it, what happened was is when they were accepting the Jack Russell Terrier into the AKC as a breed, they were going to use the name Jack Russell Terrier, and there was some big stink made about them using that name from some of the other registries, I believe, or something like that. You have to research it for yourself. So they dropped the name Jack. Magically, that leaves us with Russell Terrier. So all of our dogs are dual registered with the EJRTCA, Jack Russell Terrier, and with the AKC, Russell Terrier. So don't be confused, because all those dogs, when they say they come from Australia, the foundation of the AKC opened its doors when they were accepting these dogs in 2012 to the foundations from EJRTCA, I believe, and maybe, I think JRTCA might have still had some short ones at that time, I'm not sure. But it doesn't matter where they're coming from on the pedigrees. All these dogs are the same dogs. Russell Terrier, Short Jack Russell Terrier. You got the tall ones, Parsons Russell Terrier, and the Pudins. Pudin is not on any registration. That is the nickname, and to me, it always meant below 10 inches. But that's me. History, through all my search, reveals that it's 12 inches and below are the short ones, and 12 inches and above, 15 inches, is the tall ones. So I always thought below 10 inches must be a Pudin. Well, history tells me differently, and what I'm going to do is invite anyone and everyone to come on in the comments below, approve, disapprove, agree to disagree, share your information of your findings, and like, subscribe, and share this video so we can all have an opportunity to learn something and see what everybody else is thinking. But keep it clean. I don't want to have to zap your video. As always, thanks for being here. Like, subscribe, and share, like I said. Stay tuned for our next video. Thank you very much.